Hey guys, I'm Lenny from Jungle Scout, and today I'm joined by Nathan Archie, the country manager for PAYONEER Australia. Thanks for joining, man.
Hi Lenny, great to be here.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about how to sell internationally on Amazon and just all around managing your business. So Nathan, to kick things off, let's just quickly talk about the power of e-commerce or selling online.
E-commerce is just growing exponentially. We know roughly by 2020, there's going to be almost 1 billion online buyers worldwide. That's 1 billion online buyers worldwide, doing almost $1 trillion worth of sales around the globe. And there's just a huge surge of new marketplaces as well, opening up all over the world. Amazon has spread globally. I was working at eBay before, and now I'm at PAYONEER, and still amongst the e-commerce vertical, and it's just fantastic.
Excellent. So let's dive into some of the challenges of selling internationally on Amazon. So a lot of people will start off selling in the US predominantly, but they'll sell from other countries. Like myself, you know, when I started selling, I was selling from Australia. And I know one of the biggest challenges I had was that I was, you know, making purchases in China in US dollars and then selling in US dollars. But then when you nominate a bank account on Amazon, they pay you out in the country that you live in. So initially I was being paid out in Australian dollars, but then I'd have to basically convert that back into US in order to purchase more product. And so I'm losing money in that sort of exchange. And my issue was, okay, how do I get a US bank account? It seemed really difficult to do until I came across PAYONEER. Could you talk a little bit about how PAYONEER can kind of help sellers, you know, manage their payments and currencies?
So really, PAYONEER is about helping sellers sell globally. So for example, what we do is we provide our sellers with a virtual US bank account.
Yeah.
Right. So essentially, they're getting a US bank account set up in America that you can receive US dollars into. It's sometimes a difficult thing, especially if you're overseas.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to have a registered address there. You need to have an entity, right? Or if you're doing it individually, you'd need a social security number.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those things because you're living abroad, it's very difficult to do. So then you're unable to do that, and then you have to, you know, fall back to the Amazon method, which is just paying you directly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I found. And like, I know that a lot of our audience are just, you know, individuals that are just wanting to get started as an individual. They're not looking, or they're not at the stage of setting up an entity or having to do all those other things. So they just want a very easy way to get a US bank account. So I guess, you know, it definitely worked for me in Australia, but what countries are able to kind of set up a PAYONEER account with this US dollar?
So we operate globally. So anyone in any country around the world can set up a PAYONEER account. It's very simple. It's very easy.
Awesome.
Just go into our website. You can open up an account. So you get your US bank account details, and then you put those into the back of Amazon, and then Amazon starts to pay into that account. I mean, the other thing that we talked about was that flexible methods of payment. So, you know, you mentioned the challenge of receiving an AUD and then converting back to China in US dollars. Yeah. So let's say I'm in London, I've opened up my PAYONEER account, and I'm selling on Amazon.com. Your Chinese supplier sends you an invoice, right, for, let's call it $10,000 for the month. You can then pay them in US dollars straight from that account in US dollars to that Chinese supplier in US dollars. So you're not having to convert it back to British pounds and then having to pay it.
Exactly.
So a lot of our British customers use it for that and pay their suppliers directly.
Okay.
Which is very, very handy. The other thing we talk about around flexible methods of payment is really we give them a MasterCard, right? And with that MasterCard, we can start to use that MasterCard to buy things in the US in US dollars. So for example, a Jungle Scout account. You know, if I've got my Jungle Scout account, Jungle Scout charges in US dollars, but I'm based in London, I can then start to pay directly from those US dollars in the US from a MasterCard to Jungle Scout, and then not have to, again, do a double conversion in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, because, you know, generally like the US market is the biggest. A lot of the Amazon related services are usually in US dollars. And so it makes sense to kind of keep it in US dollars. It's also nice to kind of keep it all in the same account for accounting purposes. So the more transactions related to your business in the one account, the better. But yeah, I must say the MasterCard is something that really impressed me with PAYONEER. I mean, I know there are other, payment service providers out there as well, but I think, as far as I'm aware, I think you guys are the only ones that provide that card, but I have found that very useful, like you said, for your Jungle Scout subscription or, PPC tools or any related service is really useful. But let's jump back to paying suppliers. So I guess there are two ways that you can do that. Firstly, it's great that you can do it from your balance. I guess the first way you can do it is by just doing a standard kind of wire transfer. Is that correct?
It's similar to that. You do need to set them up as a specific account in your PAYONEER account, and you're withdrawing to their bank account. So you can do that. But the best way that we prefer is what's called make a payment.
Okay.
So that's utilizing the PAYONEER ecosystem. So a lot of suppliers in China often have a PAYONEER account themselves.
Yeah.
So there's the ability to pay them directly into their PAYONEER account, which also is very quick, it's instantaneous, literally same day.
Okay.
So that means, they're not having to wait for transfers or anything like that. And that's really the most simple solution to do. We also have a supplier facing team in China who helps onboard suppliers directly too. So you can sort of, if your supplier for some reason isn't receiving via PAYONEER, you can refer a friend through your PAYONEER dashboard. Put in their details. Our team will receive that as well, and now we will be able to outreach and contact them and then help them on board and then ensure that your supplier is also being paid via PAYONEER. And it's a very, very quick and cost-effective way of doing things.
Okay, so I haven't done that as of yet. I pay from my balance with PAYONEER, but I just kind of send it to their regular bank details. So essentially, what would the steps be? I would reach out to my supplier and say, hey, would you be willing to receive your payments via PAYONEER, maybe incentivize them and say, hey, it's instant, so you'll get your payment instantly. And from that point, I then, refer them over to you guys, and you guys can help them get set up.
Yes. So you can, if you refer them, click on refer a friend through the PAYONEER system, you can input their details.
Brilliant.
And then they can do that. The other way you can do it is you can always contact our customer service center, which operates 24/7. Cool. You can also just send them the link and say, here, sign up via this link, and they can sign up, and then we'll be able to reach out to them as well that way.
Now, that's really handy. So the best way to go about it, or the cheapest for you and the quickest for them, is to get them set up with a PAYONEER account so that there's a direct transfer. But I do know that sometimes suppliers can be a little strict on the payment terms that they use. So if they don't budge, worst case scenario, and they just want to do it by TT, telegraphic transfer or whatever, you can just still just do a standard transfer from your PAYONEER account.
You still can do it from your PAYONEER account. Yes.
Brilliant.
There may be some markets that for us that might be slightly different in how that operates, just based on some of our licensing in certain markets. But essentially, if you work with your customer service agent in that in your region, you'll be able to get the right answers and get the solution up and running.
Okay, brilliant. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about was something that we mentioned just off camera earlier. But one of the big sort of bottlenecks, I guess, for an Amazon business is cash flow. One of the reasons being that, Amazon payments only come to you every 2 weeks. So it can be really tricky to manage your cash flow when you're running out of inventory and you need to make a payment to your supplier, and then there's a lead time of 30 to 60 days on top of that. So managing cash flow or having cash at the ready is really handy. But is there something that PAYONEER can assist you with to improve that or solve that problem? Yeah,
definitely. So there's all these little bottlenecks. So it's how do you overcome those? And what you're launching at the moment is a PAYONEER Capital Advance product. And in a lot of our markets, it's not everywhere at the moment. We're phasing this across the world. But essentially, what it will do is it'll enable our sellers to be able to receive their Amazon funds in advance early. So let's say, for example, I sell $30,000 worth of sales in the month on Amazon, and Amazon tells me you need to wait 30 days to get those. You'll actually receive in your PAYONEER account an offer, a cash advance early offer. Right? So you'll be able to click on the button and see how much you're being offered, and you'll be able to accept that. So it might not be the whole amount. It just does depend on your time with PAYONEER and what we know about you as a seller.
Right.
But you'll receive some kind of an offer of a cash advance, and then you'll be able to accept that and then use that as your cash flow for the next month or so.
Is there any like interest on that, or
we don't charge interest? There is
Yep.
a fee associated with it, and it slightly varies depending on the volume.
Okay.
But it's in a low single digit percentage that we're talking about, sort of that 2 to 5% roughly.
Okay.
So there's a small
Brilliant.
fee, obviously, for the service, but it just means that you'll be able to get your funds really quickly, and then be able to pay your suppliers, and then keep your business churning, and then set you up for the next month.
Is it really determined by how much Amazon's going to pay you, or is it more just, more of like a loan that's kind of based on your previous sales history and so forth?
So it's not a loan. It is based on what Amazon's going to pay you. That's essentially where it's all coming out
so
of.
Did you verify that?
We would know from Amazon. We get the data from Amazon, so we understand
Gotcha.
what the sales are coming through and how much you're expecting to get for the month.
Yeah.
And then we can work out how much the offer needs to be.
Cool. Yeah, and then that covers you on your end because you know that amount's coming.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. In the early journey of a seller, I think I often see that the first few shipments can be kind of hard because usually you're trying to order in the minimum amount of stock to begin with, but then you're sort of running the risk of running out too soon by the time you do some giveaways and so forth. And so you might just need that cash advance a little bit quicker.
Definitely, and especially if you get, say for example, you'd forecasted in your first order for, let's call it 100 units or 200 units, and then all of a sudden you double that, you're getting, you sell out within 2 weeks instead of a month. You need to make sure you've got some cash flow to be able to purchase new stock, to be able to fulfill those orders that are,
Definitely.
about to come through.
Excellent. So you said it's just starting to roll out now. What's kind of the expected time frame, do you think, before it's
global?
Yeah.
Probably in the next 12 months we'll have it globally. We're definitely, at the moment it's US, UK are sort of the main markets that we're offering. But what you'll be able to do is see it via your Payoneer account. So if you've got a Payoneer account at the moment, you can look for the Payoneer Capital Advance tab, and you'll be able to utilize it. Otherwise, you can contact your customer service in your area and find out if it's available for you as well.
All right, Nathan, so we're both Aussies, and as we know, Amazon Australia has recently launched, or in the last sort of 12 months. I've been away traveling a lot, so could you give me the rundown on Amazon's entrance into Australia and what you've heard?
The reality is, they start off with a bit of a bang with some traffic, huge spike of traffic when they first launched. Then it kind of dropped away, I have to be honest, unfortunately. That their sales, speaking to a lot of our sellers who sell on Amazon Australia, and also just people across the e-commerce market, sales haven't been fantastic at the first early part of this year.
Right.
However, in the past couple of months, the feedback I'm getting is that sales are really starting to pick up. So for example, they've got 2 FBA warehouses in Australia. There's one in Sydney, one in Melbourne, which makes it much easier if you want to start selling on Amazon now to get them to manage your items for you.
Definitely.
And we've got a lot of international customers from Payoneer's perspective who are actually selling on Amazon in Australia. We've got customers from Japan and Korea who are really doing a bit of a push from there to sell on Amazon here. And now with the uplift of sales that we're seeing in the past few months, it's really starting to, the needle's starting to shift a little bit. The offering that Amazon's also got for their consumers is changing a little bit. It's becoming a bit more valuable. They launched Prime, which you've probably seen. And
is that so? What is Prime? Can you get? Is it like free 2-day shipping or?
Yeah, so they've got the 2-day shipping component, and it's much cheaper here in Australia than it is in the US as well. It's something like it was $49 for the year when they first did a promotion. I think it sort of finished around $50, $59 now at the moment, but still it's much cheaper than the US, which is, I think it's $99 for the year or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And what they've got is now Prime, you get the shipping. You also get Prime Video in Australia too now, which is a pretty good offering. They've got some great content on there that pushing out of the US, but also they've just in the past month as well, they've launched the music side of things too. So if you get Amazon Prime, you also get the music offering too. So they're starting to build that that whole picture for the consumer, which actually makes it quite attractive for them to sign up. And Australia's, they've done the blueprint in the UK and Germany, and they're following the blueprint in Australia to a T. And I think now that we'll really start to see them get some headwind and grow, to a significant level. And I think, from a seller's perspective, it's a good opportunity to sort of, start to get involved and be there in the early phase and build up your, your feedback, because that's really important.
I think I see it as kind of like capturing real estate now, because, I've been kind of having a little bit of a look on Amazon Australia, and, there's still so few reviews on just about everything that I feel that you could fairly confidently like compete with just about anything in the top 100 bestsellers. Like, I think probably like most niches are pretty much up for grabs if you have a bit of savvy and you know what you're doing. Another thing that I thought was quite interesting is that I noticed I got an email, I think a month ago or maybe a little bit longer, from Amazon Australia, basically saying they're going to like waive all seller fees for the next 6 months. So it sounds like they're trying to recruit a lot of sellers, and they're really trying to build that out. So
yeah, look, it's definitely a great opportunity to be there at the moment. I think, is Jungle Scout looking at the Australian?
that is a question that we do get asked a lot. Like, when is Jungle Scout coming to Australia? I don't think, hopefully I don't get in trouble with Greg for saying this, but I don't think it's coming for a little while. The reason being is that we require a lot of data first. Like, we need a significant amount of sales history in order to be able to basically reverse engineer and come up with those sales numbers. So because there's so few sales and the market is still in its infancy, it's it's going to be quite hard to kind of come up with those calculations yet. But just in my own personal product research and looking around, trying to figure out like, okay, how can you go about sort of figuring out what products to sell on Amazon Australia at the moment. I think you just need to get a little bit creative. One of the things that I've been playing with is like looking at ebay.com.au and trying to gauge the demand of products on there. One thing I notice on eBay is that when you search for a product and you open a listing, it will tell you how many is being sold. And I think you can even click on that and it'll show you the dates. So you can kind of see like, oh, wow, yesterday there was like 8 sales, the day before there was this. Yeah. So I think if you get a little bit creative, you can kind of figure out some of these products that are selling well from other markets.
It's really important that you've got the right information and you're providing the right data and the right statistics so people can make the right decisions. If you don't have it, you're better off just building it and getting that information first. I think you touched on a good point, like looking at eBay, and there are like some other dedicated eBay solutions that people can look at. I think eBay's got their own sort of information if you're a seller.
Oh, okay.
But then there's also one called shelftrend.com I think as well, which is just purely focuses on eBay. So you could probably leverage some insight there to then build up your Amazon in Australia. But I think they only focus on eBay.
So we've talked about Amazon Australia. A lot of people will start off selling on Amazon US. But, let's say you've sold a few products there, your business is maturing and you're looking at expanding into other marketplaces. Can PAYONEER help with that? And what marketplaces would you recommend from your experience?
Yeah, sure. So really, the US is obviously the holy grail, the biggest. Yeah. It's number one. And next after that is Europe. It's Germany and the UK. They're the number 2 and number 3 in terms of Amazon globally. Right. And you've already got the Amazon, formula in place, right? If you've done on the US, you've got the formula in place. I would say, use your knowledge of what you've got from the Amazon formula and start to replicate that in other markets.
Yeah.
I'd probably go the UK first before Germany, even though Germany's larger. Primarily because you've got the language scenario.
Yeah, less
of a barrier. It is
slightly
less of a barrier, unless you speak German, fluent German, and you can convert all your listings into German. Yeah. The reality is, if you're selling it into the UK, aside from having to change the spelling of specialised from a Z to an S, outside
it's
of
fine for me.
Which you probably don't really have to do. But it's very easy just to shift your listings over there, set up FBA, and start to sell into the UK. Then that gives you a bit of time to start working out Germany. You might need to get a bit of a translation support to be able to sell it. Convert your listings to German, and then start selling them into Germany, and manage it that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. There are some differences when it comes to selling in different marketplaces, like you've got that in Europe and so forth. But I think people tend to get a little bit overwhelmed and think that it's perhaps a little bit bigger than it is. Really, like you said, it's just replicating what you've already done. There might be a few nuances in terms of selling in other marketplaces, but it's more or less the same kind of strategy moving in. And so in terms of receiving payments and making payments, you know, of those ones, the UK and Germany, can Payoneer support the currencies for those marketplaces?
Yes, definitely, and in the same account too. So what you've got is you've got your account with your US balance, and then you're starting to receive from the UK, and you'd have a Great British Pound, a GBP, British Pounds balance, and then you have a Euro balance if you're receiving from Germany, and they all sort of sit in your account, almost like, you know, just different bank accounts in the one account.
Brilliant.
And then you've got those there. The other thing that we've got is a VAT tool, right? So it actually helps you pay your VAT. So if you're receiving in the UK and you have to pay VAT, you can pay VAT directly from your Payoneer account from British Pounds. There's no fees for that at all. And it also registers with the tax office in Britain so that they know that you've made those payments as well.
That's really helpful.
So it's very helpful. It's all in the one. It's very simple, easy to use, all automated through the account as well. So it makes it much more easy too. But yes, definitely, you know, the UK and Germany would be the two markets that I'd be looking at. Then after that, you've got the rest of Europe. You know, there's a few of the other ones like Spain, and France, and Italy as well, and then obviously Australia as well.
All right, Nathan. So thanks so much. We've covered a heap there. Thanks for kind of sharing everything that Payoneer can kind of do to help you with your business and managing different currencies. Now over to you guys. I want to hear what marketplaces do you currently sell in? Leave them in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure to give us a big thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this. Nathan, thanks so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Lenny.
Thanks for watching, guys, and take care. Bye.